Good morning and welcome back to another Gribbly's Folly Sunday antisocial hour. That time each week in which I smoke my pipe and complain about humanity while I answer its questions and while I huddle close to my kerosene heater because it's 26 degrees in this bitch. Let's get the complaining off to a rushing start here. You would think that with as many people as there are who depend on kerosene heaters for their primary heat source, that there would be a market for kerosene heaters that actually work. But I've never had one that actually works as intended. This one is cooking away right now. It's doing good. There were plumes of horrible black smoke here a second ago, and the entire place smells like an oil refinery now. Not that I've ever been in an oil. I mean, I don't really know. What is an oil? It might smell like roses for all I know. Only experience with oil refineries is that one level in Sonic the Hedgehog. I think it was Sonic 2, where he's in the oil refinery and there's the oil. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe oil refineries are like pristine aromatherapy centers. But this thing doesn't smell too good right now. So if you see my eyes start to get a little bit droopy or something, leave a comment down below that's like, hashtag Gribbs don't die. That would be helpful. I appreciate it. I'm smoking my Missouri Meerschaum hardwood. And in it, again, some Solani Virginia Flake. I am getting through this tin, and I've kind of decided that I need to smoke the rest of this up because I've let it dry out. And I just don't smoke often enough to, here, you can see the flakes are kind of, yeah, it's not ideal. I don't smoke often enough to get through a tin of tobacco before it starts to dry out, and then, of course, I was smoking over my month-long break, so I really need to finish this because it's just not treating my tobacco fairly. Your comments and questions on my Bill Clinton pipe parody for Typing Piper. Carving Piper says, "Wow, that was really rude." Oh, come on, man. Come on, it's a joke. If you can't laugh at yourself and the whole, those of us who talk about these things, and it's a joke. Come on, I called Typing Piper poor white trash. He's not even Southern, and I called him that. And he was just rolling on the floor laughing. I know, because I could hear him like hitting the carriage returns on his typewriters that he keeps on the floor in his trailer. Anyway, Typing Piper, I hope you're not offended. I did lose. I hope neither Typing Piper or Carving. I don't want to offend anybody, but that's not going to stop me from making jokes at other people's expense. This is the paradox of the Gribbly's Folly channel, and it's probably the reason that I lost 6 subs this week. But these are the same 6 subs that YouTube keeps saying that I lose. I vacillate between 1159 and 1153. And 1 week it'll be one, and 1 week it'll be the other, and I keep getting notifications that I'm getting new subs. I don't understand what's going on. I don't check my analytics. But man, if I'm losing subs because of my acting skills, I will blame Bill Clinton for that and not me. Actually, I suspect, and this is what Carving Piper is always saying, I suspect that I'm losing subs because I talk about politics every now and then. And what a week it's been. So, we had the midterm elections, we had a mass shooting, we had the displacement of the Attorney General, we've had the new acting Attorney General seems to be a cave troll. And what else is going on? The fires in California. It's just been a crazy week, right? In news and politics. And for those of you just tuning in, the whole reason my channel exists in its current form is that I was a lowly photojournalist who had spent all of his money and time and emotional energy, spent all that in media and politics okay, this is getting depressing already. I'm depressing myself already before I even start to, it's because it's been a really depressing week. So here's what happened, right? I decided I was done with media and politics and that I would focus my attention on the woods, something that I enjoyed but never got to do. Never got to go outside, never got to do because I was always working. Or more accurately, I was always obsessing about media and politics. 2016, put it down, done, right? But there are times when I'm compelled, when I'm pulled back in. And this week was one of those times. I cannot ignore election results. I seem to be unable to just be like, yeah, there's a giant midterm election tonight. I'm going to play Minecraft. No, I sat up and I hit refresh on my State Board of Elections website, and then I would get all like upset one way, and then the numbers would flip, and I would get all upset the other way. And so, classic pre-Gribbly behavior. And then, of course, the next day, all hell broke loose, and we are. I made a video about this week, and I'm not going to post it because I was giving it too much energy. But of course, Donald Trump has fired Jeff Sessions, which for those of you who follow this, we know that this triggers a certain chain of events, right? This is the end game for the Trump administration, or at least it could be the end game for the Trump administration, or it could be the end game for democracy. We'll just have to wait and see. So, MoveOn.org, right? Everyone's favorite activist organization. I don't know if you remember, but they completely stopped the Iraq war with their protests back in the mid-2000s. They decided to hold a protest, if you can imagine that. And I, for some reason, felt compelled to go photograph this protest. And so I did. And, you know, I was, I in my video, I said that I would eat a toaster strudel, if they had more than 100 people. They claimed to have 1,600 people. 1,600 people were going to show up in my little town to protest the firing of Jeff Sessions. And I said in my video that I would eat one of Derek Tant's toaster strudels if they had more than 100. And they did. They did have more than 100, but I didn't publish that video, so I'm not held to the bet, right? So anyway, they had about 200 people. And they all waved their signs, and I don't know if you heard the news, but Donald Trump has apologized and has rehired Jeff Sessions and given him a raise. He's still a tyrant. So what this week has been, and the point of the story is that after photographing the protest and after being sucked into the news all week, I feel terrible. Like my high energy demeanor here is me masking the fact that I actually really am depressed because I allowed this week to get to me. And I wish that I had spent all that time in the woods. Except that it's 26 degrees in the woods. So I wish I'd spent all that time in woods further south. A long time ago, I was really upset about something. I was really upset about something that was political, and I was talking to a politician about it. And we were having a private conversation, and I was so upset. And I really looked up to this politician at the time. I don't anymore. But he, at the time, was a very wise man. I think he was. And then he went crazy later on. Whatever. I was really upset about this thing. And he just said, Max, it's always been a fallen world. And that was the first time that I started to think, well, you know, you're right. Like, this stuff isn't meant to be better than it is. This is the nature of things. But then I let my career ambitions carry me for another decade or so. But I called Brad. When I heard about Jeff Sessions, I called Brad. And Brad just said, yep, the world is the world. And that's the proper way to feel about it all. That's what I've learned the past 2 years, is that this is the way of the world. And I just need to, it's so hard to say accept it. So I won't say that. I just need to go to the woods. I just need to get away from it. Are we recording? And that is what the whole thing is about. This channel, if there is any advocacy here, it is to put down advocacy and to work on yourself and your family and keep yourself and your family healthy. That's what I'm doing. All right, we'll bring it down a little bit. I'll try to relax. I'm not shivering as much anymore, so I think I can talk a little slower here. Robert Dixon says Bill Clinton had a full Windsor. And you know what, Robert? You are right. I looked up lots of videos of Bill Clinton before making that video. But I failed to notice that he did have a full Windsor, and I only had a half Windsor in that video. So next time I'll try to do better. Jake Nelson, I left this question out last week, says, when we were talking 2 weeks ago, I was talking about women who I found beautiful, but whose personalities killed it for me, like Ivanka Trump. And there was some back and forth with Beard on that. And Jake Nelson says, got a better one for you. Let's turn this into a more positive question. What woman out there that is not typically considered attractive do you find attractive because of her awesome personality? And Jake, I would like to answer that question because I love talking about beautiful women. But I felt pretty, I don't know about sleazy, but I felt that, I think it's fine to appreciate attractive women. And I think if you're a celebrity or a person in the public light, it's fine. It's fine for us to talk about attractive women, and I'm not necessarily like apologizing for what I said about Ivanka Trump or Kim Kardashian of all people. That doesn't concern me, but I don't really want to say, well, this woman's ugly, but I think she's pretty because I like her. That's not really something. That's not a kind thing to say. So. I know that the spirit behind your question is good, but it's funny how in our society it's easier to say she's really pretty, but I hate her, as opposed to she's not that pretty, but I think she's really nice, so I like her a lot. Isn't that an interesting dichotomy there? I didn't pause it, did I? We're still recording. Barnett had a really interesting question this week, and he also asked it of Yardism, and I cheated because I watched Yardism's video on it before answering this question. But first, we'll get to a different one from Francis. Surely the number one piece of advice for anyone facing fatherhood is boil water, and lots of it. What in the name of sanity do they do with it all? I assume they sterilize things with it. And this dovetails nicely. Let's use a Bill Clinton or a George Bush manner. This dovetails nicely with another thing that I need to talk about this week, which is NaNoWriMo, typing Piper. I should do a full VR to that, but and I will separate from this because my Sunday anti-socials have been running a little long, and I don't want a lot of dead air in my Sunday. So anyway, what I'm saying is stay tuned for NaNoWriMo VR. But my book that I'm working on right now, which I'm not really, I took a few days off. I'm not that dedicated. I took a week off. Yeah, I haven't really worked on it all. Whatever. There is a home childbirth scene in my book, and when I was writing it back in 2014, my wife was very pregnant, and I had been to the birthing class that I mentioned last time, and the only thing I could think, I was like, well, what are these people going to do? They're having a baby at home, and I was just like, well, they boil a lot of water, like type, boil water. I have no idea. I really should probably research that before I finish revising my novel. While we're talking about the novel, Les Brady asks Gribbs, have you read Cormac McCarthy? Just wondering if dark literature resonates with you given your novel's theme. My novel is, of course, a dystopian future kind of thing with rednecks. Yes, I have read Cormac McCarthy. No Country for Old Men is my favorite book on the planet. I have not read The Road. I don't plan to read The Road because everyone I've ever talked to who knows me personally says, oh, you should read well, no, you shouldn't read The Road, but The Road's a really good book. So people know that I can go a little overboard on the dark obsession kind of thing, and they tell me not to read The Road, so I'm going to heed that advice. But basically, the novel that I'm writing right now reads like something that was scrounged out of Cormac McCarthy's trash. To Francis Barnett's questions, if you were to be tarred and feathered and run out of town on a rail, what song is that? No, just run out of town. Is that a Southern thing? Run out of town on a rail? Whatever. What song would you want to hum to yourself as you went? Jay Giles Band, Angel in the Centerfold. It's probably up to a nice 40 degrees on ass level right now. Now, still 26 degrees up here, but my ass is warm. So I can relax a little bit and really give this one my full attention. Francis Barnett, if you were the last person alive and faced with the prospect of another 30 years of life, Do you think you would find some sort of meaning to your existence, or would it just be a case of survival? Also, would you at some stage contemplate suicide? And people say, I have problems with darkness. So I have a problem when people ask these hypotheticals. I take them really literally, and so all right, I'm faced with the prospect of another 30 years. So that's not a certainty of another 30 years, because if it were a certainty, if I were certain that I had another 30 years to live, I would do all kinds of crazy stuff because I know I'm going to live another 30 years. So I assume this is just like I have to live out the rest of my life as the only person on the planet. Meaning that I could die, I could get an infection, I could fall off a cliff or something like that. So I do have to consider survival. I can't do things like, because when I first read the question, I was like, well, hell, if I know I've got 30 years, I'm going to do something cool like paddle a rowboat across the ocean or something like that. But because you wouldn't have to stock food, because you know you're not going to die of hunger because you got 30 years. But that's not the question. It's the prospect of 30 years, completely alone. But it says you're the last person left alive, so that assumes that there were people, and they're not anymore. So, like Yardism, I'm going to say that survival for the first few years, not a problem. I'm going to be honest here and say I would probably go crazy within the first 2 weeks. And I think if survival were a problem, it would take longer to go crazy. But if I can just like walk over here to the rich neighborhood and like sleep in one of their houses and eat their canned food, and I got to go out and scrounge for stuff every now and then, or I would immediately get a dog, and a cat and whatever else I could get to live in the crazy McMansion that I took over. It would be a very, like, I live a solitary life already, and lately I've really not liked it. I don't like it very much. It causes problems in the Gribs, in the T box up here. T box has problems when I don't get to talk to other people. And the other day I've got a buddy that's looking for work, and I was like, man, you should go bag groceries at the grocery store, because then you would get to talk to people all day and you would see the sun out your window, and that just, all of us, like, for a second there I was just like, man, I wish I could go be a grocery bagger. And I think that's why people are like Walmart greeters in their old age. I hope that's why, and not that they just are so destitute they have to do that. But I think I would go pretty seriously insane. I also don't think, let's be realistic, that there's enough shelf life on my meds to keep my OCD at bay for 30 years. Not going to happen. There's probably enough pills I could take. I could go, scrounge pharmacies and find the pills, but I don't think they would be effective after a certain amount of time. So I would immediately work on finding what companionship I could with animals, and then start working on like a very strict mental health regimen, running a certain distance every day, serious meditation, like hours a day, because if not, my OCD would indeed make me contemplate suicide. If I were stuck in that situation, with the OCD going nuts the entire time, yeah. I mean, Yardism said that contemplating suicide is terrible, and it is. It is terrible. It's a horrible thing when anyone finds themselves in that situation. So it's not something I say lightly, but I will say that I can understand. Not that I have ever been there. I've never in my life seriously contemplated suicide, but I have had moments where I realized that if I didn't do something, I was going to end up there in the place where I was contemplating suicide. And those moments have all been around, have all come from the OCD. So the prospect of 30 years alone is pretty horrifying to me, actually. However, if I would like to think I would like to think that even though you didn't have the certainty of 30 years, you could have some fun with the situation, right? Like, I would go climb the Eiffel Tower. Why not? I mean, I would have to learn how to fly a plane to get over there, but why not do that too? So you crash the plane. So what? So the question, can you find meaning? I don't think that meaning is dependent upon the level of your solitude. And the times in my life when I felt the most meaning were times when I was around other people. But I still find a lot of meaning when I am solitary. So I don't know that meaning would be dependent upon it, because I don't think we can really understand meaning in a satisfying way. Like, we can understand, if you're passionate about your work, well, this work means something to me. We can understand that. But what does it all mean? We can't understand that. And I think that as long as you're living in this reality, you can't understand what this reality means. Does that answer the question? I hope so. Ask Gribbs, would you list the food groups from most important to least important and the reasons why? Okay, so most important, well, I'll just show you a picture. Second most important, I think, would be coffee. Third, strong English tobacco. Right below that, even though I don't eat this very much, a good steak. I think a good steak is a food group in and of itself. And then below that, chocolate maybe? Yeah, that seems like a good food pyramid. Pop-Tarts, coffee, tobacco, steak, chocolate. I really should get more steak. I've been trying to stay away from the chocolate lately. So the reasoning behind that would be Pop-Tarts are vital for, if you want to find meaning in existence, you got to have Pop-Tarts, right? Okay, so that's number one for sure. Coffee is also vital for you to be awake to find the meaning in existence. Tobacco, I left out whiskey. Where would whiskey fit on the whole thing? That's tough because the whiskey gives me a headache. Unfortunately, in my old age, I love whiskey, and yet I don't really drink it very much. Tonight, you know what tonight I'm going to do? I'm going to go, I'm not going to do that. I don't have any money. I'm not going to go, but if I had money, I would go get a steak and some whiskey tonight and then take like a bottle of ibuprofen and wash it down with a gallon of water, and I might not be hungover tomorrow. I mean, the whys, I think, explain themselves, right? If you've got those things, Pop-Tarts, tobacco, coffee, whiskey, ibuprofen, steak, I think you're pretty set. You could live your 30 years in solitude on that diet. Leprous Hand says, teach us how to fold your keffiyeh and what brand. I had to Google keffiyeh, Keffiyeh, and that refers to a scarf. And this is not a keffiyeh, this is a shemagh, please. So I will sort of teach you how I fold it, but honestly, it's such a simple fold because I keep it on under a jacket so that I have an unbroken heat membrane around my neck and ears and all that in these perilously cold times. Shut up, Norbo. I hear you saying that you're Minnesota, Wisconsin, Idaho, wherever the hell you live. I think your winters might be a little bit colder than it is in the community garden and massage parlor right now, but you just need a good kerosene heater, my friend. Speaking of offensive, Norbo, did you just pick Polish Piper to set yourself up against this? The Norbo's been running these campaign ads between him and Polish Piper, and then I go to Polish Piper's channel and he's not running any ads. And I'm like, Norbo, did you just pick someone at random to single out and campaign against? Because I like your style, dude. Okay, so it's a shemagh scarf. I buy them on Amazon. I think they're like $12 or something. And they are made by Mato, M-A-T-O. They are Pakistani cotton, whatever that means. And I do a very traditional fold called the bank robber tuck, right? Where I take it and fold it over my face. And then I fold it in half so it's a triangle. Fold it over my face, and then I tuck the other ends under it, and then I put on my jacket so it stays there. This, when I was shooting that protest, by the way, I wore this like this in case this has never happened to me, but in case there was tear gas, you just do the bank robber, right? There you go. And this is digi-camo, so they wouldn't even be able to see me. Mayor Tant asks, what is your favorite cheese? Havarti, I think. Yeah, I don't like any of the blue cheeses. I know that cheese is made with some questionable processes, but I don't like seeing evidence of fungal attack in the food that I eat. So any cheese where there's mold in it, I can't deal with it. However, Havarti is good. Any kind of really sharp cheddar. Actually, I think that would beat out Havarti. Really sharp cheddar beats Havarti. But it's got to be really sharp. My least favorite would be Swiss. I've tried over and over and over again to like Swiss cheese, and I could tolerate it. But it just doesn't do it for me. Yeah. I prefer the crappy, American cheese food slices that come in the plastic that my son likes to eat. I prefer those to Swiss cheese. Derek Tant also asks, how many times did you place your child in a drawer? Probably 5 or 6. When we brought him home, he was 5 pounds, and I just wanted to see what we could fit him into. There was like all kinds of, I'm like, whoa, he fits into the coffee pot. Whoa, he fits into this drawer. It was just for fun. And this week, now that we've gotten through all the questions, my therapist was like, maybe you have Asperger's. That's right. That's what, and I was like, no, I'm sorry. I just don't like people. Like I looked up the symptoms later because I was like, well, this is a medical professional. No, I have 0 symptoms of Asperger's. My kid, right? My kid is on the autism spectrum, right? I know what I'm talking about. I've been a little more educated than most about this stuff. That's not me. I have a very sharp social acuity. I can really read situations and people. I just don't like what I find there. That's the thing. Like that, and she's like, well, you really need to work on making new friends. I'm like, fuck you. New friends need to work on making me. So the point of this story is I don't think there's a point. My therapist is very good. I'm not going to go back to see her for a while because it was just like, can't I just be disappointed in people without having to have a diagnosis? Really? Like, people are disappointing. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. And the whole reason I made the appointment was because I knew this week was going to be rough. And I wanted to let it go. I wanted to be able to let it go after the week was over. And I'm doing such a good job. But she said, this is why I keep her around, is, she's like, maybe you've got Asperger's. Maybe your aura is too black. Maybe whatever. But then she said, when you go to this protest, when you go to take pictures of this protest, why don't you set yourself a challenge to, instead of viewing these protesters with judgment, view them with compassion. Try to understand or if not understand, then accept the things that motivate them to go out and wave signs. And it's not that I don't disagree with what they're protesting. I think that what Trump did is horrible, but it's been coming for 2 years now. And of course he did that. And what is your protest going to do? See, this is the problem. This is why I don't like people, is because I can't turn that off. I can't turn it off. When I get involved in politics and media, I have a really hard time loving my neighbor. And so I went to the protest, and honestly, I've shot so many protests in my life that for the first half an hour, I was just kind of on autopilot. And then I realized that my autopilot is very judgy. I have a very judgy autopilot because I'm shooting these photos and I'm just like, oh my God, are you like you're a journalist, right? So you're supposed to, I'm even keeled. I don't make any facial expressions. I don't, but on the inside, I'm just like, man, come on. This is just really, are we really doing this? And then And then there's a Trumpkin in a van that like stops traffic to yell back at the protesters, and the protesters are, well, you're a loser. Well, you're a fascist. Stop. Stop. My 3-year-old is more mature than that. And so anyway, there we go. I'm still, even as I'm talking about how my challenge was not to judge, I'm still judging. So the wise man that I mentioned earlier that said it's always been a fallen world, he also asked me one time, do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? And damn it, I want to be right. I'm sorry. I would rather be right than happy. I can't be happy if I'm not right. Right? How does that work? Right? So I just... And my therapist is like, would you want to live in a world where when a politician does something terrible, no one shows up to protest? Yeah. Yeah, that'd be fine with me, actually. I mean, what? Why doesn't... What? Like, what? I don't know. You guys fix me. You tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me that I just need to lighten up and go paint something on a sign and wave it downtown. And I'm not going to do that. I don't know why I'm saying that. But the point is I'm right. That's the point. Thanks for watching. Keep the ends out for the ties that bind.